Celebrating 30 years of phenomenal trend forecasting, 5 times a week, Monday through Friday. Here's Gerald Celente with today's trends in the news.
Hi, this is Gerald Celente. It's Friday, May 10th, 2019, and here are some of today's trends in the news. On the market front, you know, those trade wars are going on, so bad things are happening to the markets. That's what they keep saying. But what happened after Trump put those tariffs on China? Well, over there in Asia, the Nikkei really got hit. It was down 0.27%. The Shanghai, hey, what happened? It went way higher, up 3.1%. Hang Seng up nearly 1%. Oh, but the FTSE was down in Europe, but the DAX is up. The CAC, down a little bit. The Dow, up 114 points. NASDAQ up. Crude in West Texas, mixed. Gold up a bit, and Bitcoin keeps bouncing up higher. So what happened? What trade war? This is from CNBC. China stocks jump after tariff hike. Chinese shares stood defiant after their return from the lunch break, surging despite the U.S. imposing higher tariffs on Chinese goods. The U.S. raised tariffs on $200 billion worth of Chinese goods from 10% to 25% at 12:01 a.m. Eastern Time Friday. But Europe stocks closed higher despite U.S. tariff hike. The UK posted its first quarter GDP data on Friday, which showed the country's highest level of growth also since 2017. So things aren't slowing down that much, are they? And what happened here in the States? The Dow Jones Industrial Average finished the day 116 points higher, roaring back from a 358-point loss earlier in the session that came in the wake of a tariff increase by the U.S. effective just after midnight. Stocks hit session highs after Trump's late Friday tweet and closed near those levels. The president noted that trade talks with China were, quote, candid and constructive. Anyway, what was the trend alert you got yesterday? Trade wars won't sink markets. Cheap money will keep them rising. We were 100% correct and 180 degrees opposite what everyone else was saying. It never ends. For over 3 years, the nearly constant refrain from business media for equity market pullbacks have been trade wars. Rarely, however, have they attributed the record-breaking S&P and NASDAQ to trade initiatives because, in fact, it's earnings, stock buybacks, and low interest rate cheap money that keeps the markets rising. And we maintain our August 2018 trend forecast, quote, a full-blown trade war will not occur. We conclude that Trump's imposed tariffs and threats of escalating them are characteristic of his, quote, art of the deal negotiation strategy. We nailed it. We went opposite what everyone else went. And that's why people subscribe to the Trends Journal at trendsjournal.com. Because all you're getting is stupid news. They keep talking about this trade wars now for 3 solid years. That's not what's moving the market. Again, we said what it was, because the trade wars are real. The United States has over a $600 billion trade deficit, and the new number just came out today. U.S. trade deficit widens to $50 billion in March. You think China's going to stop doing business? The United States is going to renegotiate this thing. And even seeing bullshit Bernie Sanders coming out and saying we need to get tougher on trade, and he's going after Biden because Biden's responsible for passing NAFTA, pushing it through, is one of the big promoters of it, as well as getting China into the World Trade Organization, which Bernie went the other way on. So now it's okay for Bernie to say the trade is detrimental to the United States jobs, but when Trump says it, it's no good. And again, I'm no fan of Trump, but I believe in an equality in the trade issue. Big story. Hong Kong gives China tech giants green light to challenge big banks. This is a new era, whether it's artificial intelligence, whether it's the whole new world of internet, online, social media communications, handhelds, you name it. It's a new century. Chinese biggest technology groups have won approval to launch digital banks in Hong Kong in a long-awaited assault on the financial sector that threatens banks such as HSBC and Standard Chartered and heralds future challenges to London and New York. Tencent and Alabama were granted banking licenses by the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, and so too a few others. Now check this out. This is from Jamie Dimon, JP Morgan's CEO, has warned that Silicon Valley wants to eat our lunch. Yeah, because you bastards, you got to be equal in these days, and bitches in the banking industry have eaten all our lunch. You bunch of greedy, I can't say that word. Anyway, mother, or is it father? It's the Diamonds, it's the Goldman Sachs's, it's the Wells Fargo's, it's the Citibanks. It's a whole new era, and they're worried about it. Perhaps it's time to start worrying about global corporate debt, suggests Bank of England. The global debt, outstanding corporate bonds, has doubled from around $37 trillion in 2008 to $75 trillion today. In the U.S., non-financial debt is up 40% on its last peak in 2008. What does all that mean? Very simple. They're going to keep interest rates low because they don't want to stop the freak show. That's right. The gamblers need their money to keep gambling. Morons and imbeciles call them investors. They're not investors, they're gamblers. And they're going to keep the gambling game going by keeping interest rates low. And as you know, we say they're going to lower interest rates in the United States, being that this is the presidential reality show year. And next year, and Trump wants to win. He's in the real estate business, and he knows what happens when interest rates go up. And yes, they do have pressure on the Fed, considering the Fed lowered interest rates, or not lowered them, stopped aggressively raising them beginning in January when they said they were going to be, quote, patient, after being aggressive in 2018 and saying they were going to be aggressive in 2019. On to some other news. World's fastest bullet train starts test runs in Japan. Next generation train to clock at 224 miles per hour. I mention this because in the downtrodden third world USA, anybody travels around the world, you fly into JFK, it's F-U-C-K. Yeah, because it's a dump compared to a lot of places you go into. Anyway, so too with our third world rail system. Hey, you take the trains in New York City, it's a night in Calcutta. Oh, jump on that Amtrak Acela. What a bullshit word, Acela. You know what the thing does from New York to Boston on average? 65 miles an hour. Oh, and what's the one doing in Japan? 224. America's wasting its money on murderous wars costing tens of trillions of dollars, robbing the nation of its future. But the imbeciles, morons, and jerk-offs keep voting for their Democratic and Republican freaks. So, moving on to other news. Singapore law gives government right to eliminate false news. You know what that is?
Oh, come on now. That ain't even bullshit. That's horse shit.
It's horseshit. We gotta accept the government bullshit that they keep shoving down our throat, and when anybody else challenges, they give you a Zuckerberg. Yeah, they ban you. When I host Alex Jones now, I can't even put on Facebook that I'm hosting the show, because then they'll ban me on Facebook because of some Zuckerberg and a Google and a Twitter. Yeah. First Amendment, it's lost. It's gone around the world. The governments are in control, and they don't want to lose it because there's an anti-establishment movement in a country near you, except in the United States, where they still are stupid enough to believe the Republicans and the Democrats. And what else do we have here? Speaking about they're in charge, Tampa judge orders chemotherapy for young cancer patient. A 3-year-old cancer patient must undergo chemotherapy over the next 28 days despite the wishes of his parents not to do it. Isn't that something? We got some, I could say this, asshole judge telling a family what they should do. Oh, and remember, can't talk about being anti-vaccine. No. What right do they have to do this? I'll tell you what right they have. It's a total takeover. Yeah. Where's the outrage about this? Like chemotherapy really works. Hey, how about natural healing? Oh, I forgot. That's the first book I worked on back in 1980s. Natural Healing by Dr. Jack Saltinoff. Get the book, you'll see me and my former wife, may her soul rest in peace, Mary Ann. She's the one that sold it to Warner Books, Natural Healing. And by the way, I also have an honorary doctorate of law from the National University of Health Sciences. So if I ever get cancer, I'm not getting chemotherapy. You got it, Judge? Yeah. And try to make me get it, judgy boy. Oh, I know what you'll do. You'll send out the cops. Oh, they love to get tough with little people, those cops. Yeah. As they suck up to the big guys. On to some international news. Good news. U.S. seizes North Korean ship carrying coal. Could you imagine that? What the hell right does the United States have to do that? Stay home. What are you doing in North Korea? I know what you're doing in North Korea. You got shitheads like Pence over here, our vice president. Yeah, vice, huh? Yeah, piece of crap, Pence. Saying that Russia and China have no business being in Venezuela in our hemisphere. But we could say whatever we want to do in North Korea. What the hell are you doing over there? You have no business being there. Got a little piece of crap like Truman started that Korean War. You forgot that, huh? We had no business being in, and it's still there. Like 70 years later. Yeah, maybe Afghan War will catch up to the Korean War if we keep staying there. We're only there 18 years. In a statement, senior Justice Department official assholes called the seizure of the first of its kind and said it was part of a U.S. campaign to ramp up pressure against North Korean government. Quote, this sanctions-busting ship is now out of service, said Assistant Attorney General John Demers. Can you believe this stupid crap? Do you believe how these morons talk? We are deeply committed to the role the Justice Department plays in applying maximum pressure to the North Korean regime to cease its belligerence. They're bringing in coal. That's belligerent, huh? Yep, it's belligerent. Yep. What else do we have here? New threat from U.S. and Iran revive a crisis. The White House announced it was taking additional measures to squeeze Iran's economy by imposing sanctions on its steel, aluminum, iron, and copper sectors. Iran's industrial metal industries account for about 10% of its exports. Quote, Iran has a choice. Tim Morrison, the National Security Council's arms control director, said, at some point, even the mullahs will get it. Could you believe the arrogance of these people? This is economic warfare. Iran's economy is down some 6%. Its currency is crashing. Inflation is skyrocketing. What has Iran done to anybody? Oh, I know, they invaded Iraq. No, I think they invaded Afghanistan. Now, look what they did to Syria. I know, they're in Somalia over there. Oh, no, Celente, they're in Syria. Yeah, they were invited into Syria. And the U.S. officials, of course, had falsely accused Iran of a planned attack. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has warned Iran not to attack, following reports where intelligence officials confirmed that the claims of an Iranian plot were not really true. They said with unnamed U.S. officials telling NBC News that an unnamed Iranian official had okayed a potential attack on a U.S. military target. An unnamed. Oh, and they censor other people for conspiracy theories. Oh, how about this one? Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction and ties to Al-Qaeda. And finally, voters in Denver, a city at the forefront of the widening national debate over legalizing marijuana, have become the first nation to effectively decriminalize another recreational drug, hallucinogenic mushrooms. Maybe all of these people, these Boltons and Pompeos and Trumps and Clintons and Bidens and Sanders, maybe they should start doing some mushrooms. Maybe it'll straighten them out, because they're hallucinating on something else. Maybe it's all the crap they're eating or the bullshit that they're swallowing. This is Gerald Celente, and that's some of today's trends in the news.